Welcome back. Donald Trump has described the trade deal between the UK and the United States as done after he met Keir Starmer at the G7 summit. UK aerospace goods will now be allowed into the US tax-free, and the tax on car imports will drop to 10%, although the 25% tax on steel will remain for now. Joining me now is Harry Broadman, a former US Assistant Trade Representative and Chief of Staff of the President's Council of Economic Advisers. Harry, good to see you today. So is this a good deal for the UK?
No, listen, any deal that we can do together, the US and the UK, is a good deal. I think it goes somewhat, along with what the UK has wanted. And I'm delighted that Mr. Trump has finally signed a trade agreement now that he's back in office. Of course, as any seasoned trade negotiator will tell you, signing the deal is one thing. Implementing it and enforcing it and making sure that both sides, abide by the rules, that's a whole other matter.
How good is it for the US? I mean, Trump clearly thinks it is, or he wouldn't have signed it.
No, absolutely. No, listen, absolutely. I think we need imports in order to stimulate competition in our own economy, and obviously, having a trade relationship that's robust with the UK is very important for the US, both in terms of our growth, employment creation, and as I say, improving our competitive edge in other markets. So. Listen, it's great, but this is just the beginning, hopefully, of other deals that he signs.
We're looking at all these images of the G7, and how important are they as a matter of shaping policy of these summits? Are they just, a chance for people just to have a bit of a chat, a bit of a gab fest, or is real business conducted there on the sidelines?
Having attended and staffing some of these, the real business is done on the sidelines. What the public will see is, apart from this particular deal with the US and the UK, collectively is what is in the communique that is signed by the leadership at the close of these summits. And people will parse all of the words that are in that communique because all of the 7 countries who have signed onto it now are obligated to follow what's in the agreement. Now, these don't have the force of law, but it is a question of whether there's goodwill around the table after signing it that it actually will be enforced and the 7 economies can move ahead. It's really important that these 7 countries agree on this because, the way that we're going to compete against China and other trade adversaries in the world is to do it through collective action, not through bilateral agreements. And if the G7 can't agree on a trade agreement that's robust to counter China and other competitors, we're in deep trouble, I think.
Well, that's part of the issue, isn't it? Of course, China, Russia and the like, not part of the G7. And if you're looking at global trade, the fact that they are excluded, that's an issue, isn't it, here?
No, absolutely. I write a monthly Forbes column, and I wrote one, I think, on the heels of not the last G7 summit, but the prior one, that the G8 actually should include China. From an economics perspective, Russia is not important economically, it's important from a foreign policy perspective. But having China at the table really is important because China gets the respect that it wants, but more importantly, it opens up a dialogue, among, the 7 largest industrial economies in China that otherwise has not been taking place the way that we have been dealing with China. All of the G7 economies have been doing it one-off bilaterally. And collective action is what is going to help move the needle. But more importantly, I think from the Chinese perspective, it gives them the respect that they want. And I think anyone knows that when you're part of a club, in quotes, you have some buy-in to make whatever it is that you've agreed a success. The G8 used to include Russia, right? That was for different reasons, not for economic reasons. I think, as I say, I proposed having a G8 that includes China from an economics perspective. I think that would be a really important step forward.
Harry Broadman, really good to talk to you today. Thanks a lot for joining us on Sky Business.
My pleasure. Thank you.